The movie opens with a woman named Drasa, a skilled young sniper working for Russia. She's currently hiding within the trees and notices a plane approaching in the distance. From there, a couple steps out and Drasa wastes no time in taking the man down with a precise shot. Elsewhere, we meet an American man named Levi, who's suffering from insomnia and sitting alone at the beach. The next morning, he receives a message to report to the Marine base, and we learn that Levi is a retired military sniper specialist. Upon his arrival, Levi meets with a high-ranking official named Bartholomew, and it is revealed that, although retired, Levi now operates as an independent gun for hire for anyone willing to meet his price. Bartholomew is impressed by his flawless record and is also pleased to learn that Levi has no girlfriend or family to grieve if something were to happen to him. With that in mind, she assigns him an important year-long mission, which Levi accepts without hesitation. Meanwhile, Drasa returns to her home country, Lithuania, and meets her father at her mother's grave. She hands him the bullet casing from her last mission and admits that the killing is beginning to take a mental toll, but he comforts her by reminding her of all the terrible things the man had done. Drasa then says she's been called back from Russia for a year-long mission, while her father reveals that his cancer has progressed and is incurable. He has decided to take his own life on Valentine's Day so that he can finally rest beside his late wife, which devastates Drasa. The scene then cuts to September, where Levi wakes up on an aircraft and is instructed to leave his watch, phone, and ID behind before landing at an unknown location. A soldier informs him that upon landing, he must travel 38 kilometers north, where he will meet someone the following morning. Levi then dons a parachute and jumps into an unfamiliar area, which turns out to be dense woods. He walks for several hours, climbing mountains, and eventually sets up camp for the night. The next morning, Levi finally meets a man named JD, who turns out to be his predecessor and has been living in this isolation for a year. Even JD has no idea where they are, and he shows Levi his new home, the West Observation Tower, which is equipped with everything he'll need to survive. Across a gorge, Levi can see the East Tower, where there will be another guard placed by Russians, but he won't be allowed to communicate with them. JD explains that the job is to watch and take care of his assigned side of the gorge, patrol the western edge, and check the fences, cloakers, and suspended mines. A cloaker is a device placed every kilometer along the edge that hides the gorge from satellites. The armory outside the tower has weapons and ammo to restock if needed. A radio check is required every 30 days as part of a monthly check-in, but there is no other contact with the outside world. There's a panic button for emergencies, which triggers a failsafe called Stray Dog, but JD doesn't actually know what Stray Dog does. Upon hearing this, a confused Levi asks exactly what he's guarding, so JD explains he needs to prevent what's inside the gorge from getting out. He then throws a bomb into the gorge, and after the explosion, a piercing scream emerges from the depths, which shocks Levi. JD explains that these creatures are called hollow men, and no one knows what these things are. In the 1940s, 2,400 men went down to explore it, but none of them came out, and that's why monitoring the gorge is so important. He also reveals that this site is so confidential that not even the presidents of each side know of its existence. The next day, JD says goodbye and leaves, while Levi begins his solitary routine. JD soon arrives at a mountain, where a helicopter comes to pick him up. He is very excited to think that he's finally returning home after a year, but in a shocking twist, a soldier suddenly shoots him dead before throwing his body into the void. Shortly after, Bartholomew receives a call informing her that the rotation has been completed and JD is dead, which relieves her. The scene then cuts to October, where we see Levi checking the mines and camouflage of the area before reporting them to his superiors. One day, while exploring the place, he discovers messages written on the wall behind a bookcase by his predecessors. Later, while working in the garden, he hears some noises, and upon looking through binoculars, he notices a woman in the distance. She turns out to be none other than Drasa, who is revealed to be the guard of the East Tower. That night, Levi wakes up from a nightmare and soon cuts his foot on a broken glass. While he is tending to the wound, he catches another glimpse of Drasa and notices that she has been watching him through binoculars. The scene then cuts to a month later, where we see that it's Drossa's birthday and she is getting bored. She notices Levi through binoculars watching her, so she decides to break the rules and asks his name by scribbling on a placard. Levi responds by writing that they're not supposed to communicate, but Drossa says it's her birthday, so she'll do whatever she wants. Levi is amused by this, and the two introduce themselves to each other by writing and even toast together for her birthday. Next, Drossa puts on some loud music and begins dancing before asking Levi to dance as well, but he explains that he isn't a good dancer and that his only skill is shooting, so the two briefly indulge in a display of their skills. However, their fun is suddenly interrupted when they hear strange noises. Drossa is taken aback when she sees creatures that look like zombies and have roots growing all over them climbing toward the West Tower. They turn out to be the Hollow Men, and the two snipers quickly spring into action, opening fire. Next, Levi quickly causes an explosion that takes out many of the Hollow Men. Just when they think it's over, more creatures begin climbing Drossa's tower as well. The two snipers do their best to stop them, and soon a creature falls on a mine, causing an explosion that sends a shard hitting Drossa. She is badly wounded, but she and Levi now attack with a machine gun to eliminate the creatures on both sides. After firing several rounds, the two finally manage to kill everyone and regain control of the situation. At dawn, Levi watches Drossa treating her wound, and she tells him that it was the best birthday of her life. The next day, Levi repairs the damage and replaces the mines when suddenly a drone-like creature appears, hovering for a moment before flying away. The scene then cuts to December, where Drossa is sadly playing a Christmas carol on the piano. She soon goes to check on Levi and notices that he has decorated a Christmas tree and left her a message wishing her a Merry Christmas, which makes her smile. From then on, they begin interacting every day and form a very close bond. They spend their free time drinking, playing chess from a distance, and finding comfort in each other amidst the isolation and danger. The scene then shifts to Valentine's Day, where Drossa looks at her father's pictures and cries as he is going to end his life on this day. Levi asks if she's okay, and she simply responds that she wishes he could be with her on this difficult day. This leaves him very sad, and he notices a message written on the wall by one of his predecessors, which says that only those who risk going far discover how far they can go. He then decides to take the risk and visit Drossa, even though it is strictly prohibited. Next, Levi takes a missile and cleverly modifies it by replacing the explosive with a rope. He fires it, and soon Drossa secures the other end to a tree. That creates a zip line for him to cross. Levi then asks if she wants to have dinner tonight, to which Drossa lights up with excitement and agrees. In the evening, Levi gets ready carefully and even picks some flowers before heading to the other side using the zip line. Upon his arrival, the two finally meet in person for the first time, and Levi gives her the flowers before complimenting her on how pretty she is. Afterward, the two have dinner together and talk about their shooting records and other personal details. They discuss where they might be, and Levi is certain they must be somewhere in the northern hemisphere, based on the seasons. Levi is very curious about the mystery of the Hollow Men, but Drossa isn't too concerned, saying that her father always advised her that knowing too much can sometimes lead to trouble. At night, she puts on some music, and the two begin having a romantic dance together. One thing leads to another, and the two begin kissing and end up making love. Afterward, they get to know each other better, and Levi reveals he writes poems and has written one for her. Drossa insists that he recite it, but he refuses, saying it's not complete. The next morning, Levi gets ready to return to his tower, and the two share a goodbye kiss. However, as Levi crosses the gorge on the zip line, some of the Hollow Men begin climbing the West Tower, triggering the perimeter bombs. The resulting explosion cuts the rope, sending Levi plummeting into the gorge. Upon seeing this, a horrified Drossa quickly prepares herself with a parachute and weapons and jumps after him to rescue him. Meanwhile, we get the first glimpse of the gorge, which is a desolate amber landscape blanketed in fog. We then see Levi, who has lost consciousness and is trapped in the branches of a tree. A giant centipede-like creature is about to attack him when Levi regains consciousness and shoots it, but he soon falls into a sticky red substance, which begins to swallow him. Just then, Drossa arrives and shoots the bizarre creature, finally saving Levi. However, the two don't even have time to speak, as two hollow men arrive on horseback and begin attacking them. They fight together and manage to kill one of them, but another hollow man escapes. The duo checks the body of the collapsed hollow man and is shocked to see that it is wearing a military uniform from the 1940s, meaning that they have been living here for decades. Next, the two move forward to find their way out of the gorge, and as they walk around, they are alerted by a noise. They follow the sound and soon arrive inside a small church where there are human skeletons. Levi finds cyanide on one of the corpses and realizes that these people deliberately took their lives. Suddenly, they are attacked by huge, mutated spider-like creatures, which horrifies them. Some hollow men also arrive outside, so the duo quickly fights the creatures using a grenade and runs away from there. Shortly after, they arrive at the wall of the gorge and see an old door, so they decide to enter. Everything is dark, but with their flashlights, they manage to reach an abandoned laboratory. As they look around, they find an old generator and a videotape. They turn the power on and watch the tape, where a scientist explains that a collaboration between the East and West during the final years of Wutuand developed a biochemically destructive missile. An earthquake later damaged the missiles and released a dangerous chemical into the air. It caused human DNA to combine with plants, animals, and even insects, which explains why soldiers transformed into mutated trees. She explains that exposure for too long in the gorge can infect them, but mutations begin within 5 days. The scientist then shows branches growing from her stomach and ends the video, horrifying the duo. Next, Levi heads to a different room where he checks an old computer and realizes that they are not hired by the government but by a private corporation called Dark Lake. It turns out that Dark Lake is responsible for keeping the gorge hidden from the outside world and studying it with the hopes of creating their own version of super soldiers. Levi also finds an explanation for the Stray Dog Protocol, which turns out to be a self-destruct bomb to destroy the gorge with a radiation radius of 4.2 kilometers of thermal exposure. After this, the two return to the door and prepare to fight, knowing the contamination will affect them and they can't stay long. Drasa suddenly realizes that her backpack has been stolen, showing them that these creatures act with strategy. The two use smoke grenades to distract the creatures and make their escape, but Drasa is quickly seized by a hollow man who drags her away. Late, Drasa wakes up to find herself tied up while a hollow man is torturing her. She begins to fight the creature, but it is much stronger and overpowers her. Regardless, Drasa dodges its attacks and uses fire to burn the creature's roots until Levi appears and shoots the man. After the creature collapses, Levi checks its uniform and is shocked to realize he was the first soldier to guard the West Tower. Shortly after, the duo finally finds an armory, which contains old wartime jeeps equipped with powerful winches. They drive one of the jeeps to the spot where the zip line was last seen. They plan to attach the zip line to the jeep's winch, drive along the eastern wall, and use it to pull themselves out of the gorge. However, as the two proceed to leave, many hollow men approach the jeep and try to pull them down. Drasa tries to drive the vehicle while Levi shoots the monsters away. However, in the end, the duo manages to cut the propane tank and set it on fire before releasing the jeep. As they finally approach the eastern wall, they watch as the jeep explodes, taking the creatures with it. As they recover from their terrifying ordeal, the couple realizes they must destroy the gorge to finally end the nightmare. In the meantime, Levi has to return to the West Tower for his scheduled monthly check-in with the boss. They agree to quarantine separately for 5 days, and if all goes well, meet again in a week. Drasa then says she has a hiding place in France and that the two of them could run away together, to which Levi agrees. Before he zips across on a new cable, Levi tells Drasa that he loves her, which surprises her. When his monthly radio call comes, Bartholomew speaks with Levi, demanding to know why he entered the gorge. Levi insists that he didn't, which leads her to assume that Drasa was the one who broke in. She orders Levi to neutralize her, and he reluctantly agrees. However, unbeknownst to him, she already knows that Levi and Drasa entered the gorge together and is planning to kill them both. The next day, we see Levi and Drasa doing their tasks while communicating with each other from a distance. They set up bombs on the cloakers that surround the gorge for some reason. Drasa then then writes on a placard and tells Levi that she loves him too, which makes him smile. But soon, they notice a helicopter in the sky and immediately realize something is wrong, so they run away in separate directions. Meanwhile, Bartholomew is at the West Tower and orders her men to kill the duo by any means necessary. But soon, she notices a message written on the wall by Levi that says, "There are 3 things that cannot be hidden for long: the sun, the moon, and the truth." With perfect timing, Drasa and Levi, positioned 3.9 kilometers from the gorge, fire at opposite ends and strike the bombs wired to the cloakers. The charges detonate and shatter the cloakers, which finally expose the gorge. The blast immediately triggers the stray dog protocol, forcing Levi and Drasa to sprint through the forest to escape the deadly thermal fallout. Upon realizing what's happening, Bartholomew tries to escape the blast radius in her helicopter with her team. However, it proves futile as the explosion knocks the aircraft violently off course and sends it hurtling to its death. Meanwhile, Levi and Drasa run as quickly as possible to escape the bomb themselves. Drasa easily clears the radius, but Levi's fate is uncertain after he leaps into a body of water to escape the explosion. Later, we see Drasa find a letter in Levi's jacket, instructing her to open it at sunset if he doesn't make it. In the next scene, we see Drasa arriving in France at the spot where she and Levi had planned to meet, but he doesn't show up. She opens Levi's letter and realizes it contains the poem he wrote for her, which makes her deeply emotional. The scene then cuts to April, where we see Drasa working at a luxury hotel as a waitress. While serving a group of customers, she suddenly spots Levi sitting at one of the tables and is shocked. The couple finally reunites tearfully, and Drasa teases Levi that he beat her record with his 3,900-meter shot. The two then share a kiss as the movie comes to a heartwarming ending.